I never thought I'd be the guy standing here, telling this story about how my life turned into a complete nightmare in one stupid, gut-wrenching moment. My name's Mike, and I was married to Lisa for 3 years. We had what most people would call a good relationship. Fun, comfortable, the kind of thing you think will last forever. I was a regular guy, working my ass off as a software developer, and Lisa was a pretty successful marketing executive. On paper, we looked perfect. But behind the scenes, things were starting to feel off. It all started a few weeks before our wedding. Lisa had been acting weird, small stuff at first. She'd get defensive if I asked about her phone, or she'd suddenly be too busy to talk some days, claiming work was crazy. I chalked it up to pre-wedding stress, honestly. But then came the little things that didn't add up. She'd be overly protective of her phone, always keeping it face down. She'd lie about where she was going, claiming she had client dinners or meetings that somehow always ran late. I tried to brush it off, telling myself maybe she was just nervous or overwhelmed. Then the week before I left for my business trip abroad, I noticed she was more tense than usual. She was snapping at me over small stuff, my clothes, my plans, just little things. I remember feeling confused and hurt but still trying to keep things normal. I was leaving for 2 weeks, and I wanted to settle everything before I went. But I had this nagging feeling that something was wrong. I just didn't want to believe she could be cheating on me. That thought was too much to handle, so I buried it deep. The trip started and I was gone. Emails, calls, the usual. I tried to stay busy, but part of me kept checking my phone, waiting for some sign that she was faithful, that I wasn't crazy. But then I started noticing strange things. Small discrepancies in her stories. How she said she was working late but then posted pictures on social media from a different city. Or how her hotel receipts didn't match her stories. She told me she was doing a girls' weekend, but I found receipts of a hotel in the city where I knew she wasn't supposed to be. And then one night, I was scrolling through my email, just killing time, and I saw something that froze me in my tracks. A receipt from a hotel, an expensive one in a city over 100 miles away. It was dated just 2 days ago. I recognized the hotel name instantly because I'd stayed there once myself. I clicked the receipt open and my stomach turned. It was for her, Lisa, and a guy named Mark who I'd known since college. Their names were on the reservation. I saw the check-in and check-out times, and I saw the room service charges, empty bottles of wine, chocolates, that kind of stuff. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My mind started racing. Mark was her best man, her best friend's brother, actually. I never liked him much. He was always a bit too cocky, too smooth. And now I was looking at this hotel receipt, knowing they'd been there, probably having sex, while I was supposed to be across the world trusting her. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My wife sleeping with my best man right before the wedding. It was too much. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. The worst part, I still wasn't sure if I should confront her or just cut my losses. But one thing was clear, my trust was shattered and my life was about to change forever. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept staring at the ceiling, replaying everything I'd seen, trying to believe it was some sick joke. But deep down, I knew the truth. Lisa was cheating on me, with Mark, of all people, the guy I had always sort of disliked but never had proof of anything. Now I had the proof. It was like my worst nightmare had come alive and I was helpless to stop it. The next morning I was a mess. I didn't even bother pretending to be okay. I called her as soon as I woke up, my hands trembling. I needed answers, truth, or whatever she'd give me. I remember her voice on the other end, all sweet and bitchy. She asked what was wrong and I just blurted out, "Did you sleep with Mark? Tell me the truth." The silence on the line was deafening. Then she started to lie, of course. She played the innocent victim. "You're overthinking this, Mike. You're just paranoid. Mark and I are just friends. It's nothing. You're ruining everything for no reason." I lost my temper. I told her I saw the receipts, that I knew she'd been lying. Her tone got nasty quick. She said I was crazy, that I was accusing her of things out of nowhere, and started throwing accusations back at me, saying I was neglectful, that I was distant, that I was imagining things. It was classic Lisa: deny, lie, deflect. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I knew what I saw and I couldn't unsee it. Finally, I told her I wanted to meet and talk face to face. She said she was busy, surprise, and told me to calm down, but I wasn't calming down. My head was spinning. I thought about everything, the wedding, all the plans, how I'd trusted her, only to find she'd been screwing around with my best man. It felt like my entire world was crumbling. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just let it slide, not after what I'd found. So I started planning. I wanted to confront her properly, but I also wanted to get some leverage. I needed to see her reaction in person, see if she'd admit the truth or continue to lie her way out of it. I also decided I'd need some proof, more than just a hotel receipt. I started digging through her emails, her social media, anything that could give me more evidence. I wasn't planning to just walk away. I wanted her to feel the full weight of what she'd done. Meanwhile, her texts and calls kept coming. She tried to act innocent, like I was crazy for accusing her. She even had the nerve to say she loved me, that I was her everything, and that I was destroying us over some stupid misunderstanding. Yeah, right. That was the part that made my blood boil. How could she be so callous, so dismissive? The woman I thought I knew was turning into a stranger right in front of my eyes. I stayed up all night, rechecking everything. I knew I'd catch her in another lie if I gave her the chance. The more I looked, the angrier I got. It's like every piece of evidence was a slap in the face, telling me I'd been a fool for so long. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all the signs? How did I not see through her? How could she be this deceitful? The betrayal cut so deep it was hard to breathe. But I knew one thing: I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I'd confront her and I'd get my answers one way or another. After a night of tossing and turning, I finally decided I couldn't wait any longer. I needed to see her face and get some real answers, not just through texts or calls. The morning was cold and gray, fitting for how I felt. I told her I was coming over, no warning, just showing up. I wanted her to know I was serious. I remember the way her voice cracked when she answered the phone, like she knew what was coming, but she was trying to act innocent. When I got to her apartment, she was already expecting me, I could tell. Her makeup was a little too perfect, her smirk a bit too tight. She tried to play the calm, bitchy card, acting like I was overreacting, like I was making a mountain out of a molehill. She told me I was ruining everything just because I found some receipts. She threw in some classic lies, saying Mark was just a friend, that they'd only met up once or twice, and that she was trying to save our relationship by telling me the truth now. Yeah, right, but I didn't buy it. I was too angry, too betrayed. I looked her in the eyes and told her I knew she'd been lying, that I saw the hotel receipt and I knew she'd been sleeping with Mark, that I knew she'd been lying to my face all along. Her reaction was infuriating. She sneered and said, "Oh, so now you're some kind of detective. You really think I'm that easy to manipulate?" She started flipping the script, accusing me of neglecting her, of being absent, of cheating myself. That was her way, twist everything around to make herself the victim. I felt my blood boiling. How could she be so cold, so dismissive? She kept lying, even when I was holding the proof right in front of her face. I couldn't take it anymore. I called her out on her bullshit, told her I'd had enough of her lies, her manipulations. I told her I was done, that I couldn't stay with someone who would do this to me, who would betray me so easily. Her face turned red, but the bitchy attitude didn't fade. She kept denying, kept insisting I was the problem, that I was imagining things or just jealous. I realized then how deeply her lies ran and how little she cared about our marriage. She would rather keep her secret than admit she'd screwed up. I'd been so blind, so trusting, and now I saw her for what she truly was: someone selfish, manipulative, and willing to throw everything away for a quick fuck. That was when it hit me. I needed to walk away. I couldn't fix this, not with her. I needed to get out before she tore me further apart. The shock of it all was overwhelming. I felt like I was in some messed up nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I kept asking myself, why did I let it go this far? How did I miss all the signs? And most of all, how could she be so damn heartless? But I knew I had to do what was best for me. Even if it hurt like hell, I had to cut her out of my life completely. I told her I was done, that I was packing my things and leaving. She looked at me like I was crazy, but I didn't care. I had finally seen her for what she was, and I was done pretending. The moment I told her I was leaving, her whole attitude shifted. For a second, I thought maybe she'd break down, admit everything, and beg me to stay. But no. Lisa's face went cold, her eyes narrowing like I'd just crossed some invisible line. She snapped back with that bitchy tone of hers. "You're overreacting as usual. You always make a scene," she spat. "You're just jealous because Mark and I have a connection you'll never understand." That made my blood boil even more. I couldn't believe she had the nerve to say that, after everything I'd just found out, after seeing the hotel receipt with her name and Mark's on it. I started packing my bags, not even bothering to argue anymore. I just wanted out of there before I lost my mind. As I stuffed clothes into my suitcase, she kept trying to guilt-trip me, accusing me of being insecure, and accusing her of being the victim. But I wasn't falling for her bullshit anymore. I knew her game. She always had an excuse ready, always a way to turn the tables and make me the asshole. That's what she did: lie, manipulate, deny. She thrived on chaos, and I was finally seeing through her act. When I was about to walk out the door, she threw one last punch, saying, "You're stupid if you think this is the end. You're too weak to handle the truth. Mark and I are better than you ever were." That's when I snapped. I looked her dead in the eyes and told her she was a lying, selfish bitch who threw away everything we had for some stupid ego boost. I told her I'd never trust her again and that I was done wasting my life on someone who couldn't be honest. I left her apartment with my bags, heart pounding like a drum. As I drove away, I felt an overwhelming mix of relief and sadness. Relief because I finally saw her for what she was, someone who lied, cheated, and played games. Sadness because I loved her, and it hurt like hell to realize she never loved me the way I thought she did. I kept replaying everything in my head, the signs I ignored, the stupid little moments I brushed off, all those times I thought she was just stressed or busy. Now I knew better. I knew she'd been lying to my face for months, maybe longer. The drive home was silent, just me and my thoughts. I kept asking myself why I stayed so long, why I let her get away with so much. But deep down, I knew the answer: trust. I trusted her with everything, and she'd shattered that trust into pieces. Now I was left trying to rebuild my sense of self, trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do with the pieces of my life that were broken. I didn't have a plan yet, but I knew one thing: I was never going to let her do this to me again. Never. The days that followed were like a blur. I felt numb most of the time, like I was walking around in a fog trying to process what had happened. Part of me wanted to reach out, to beg her for some kind of explanation or maybe even a scrap of remorse. But the bigger part of me knew better. I had already seen her true colors. She was a liar, a cheat, and a master manipulator. I couldn't trust anything she said anymore, not even her apologies or her sob stories about how regretful she was. I kept replaying everything in my head: how she lied about her whereabouts, how she dismissed the hotel receipts, how she insisted she loved me even as she was sneaking around with Mark. It was like I'd been living in some fantasy world, and now that it was shattered, I couldn't recognize anything. What stung the most wasn't even the betrayal itself, though that was brutal. It was the realization that she had been willing to throw everything away for some fleeting thrill. The woman I married, the woman I thought I knew, had turned into something I couldn't even recognize. I also started to think about Mark, my supposed best man, my supposed friend. I couldn't understand how he could do this. He'd been at every important moment in my life, and now I found out he'd been sleeping with my wife behind my back. I'd always had a weird feeling about him, never fully trusting him, but I never thought it would come to this. It was like a punch to the gut. I had lost faith in both of them, and honestly, I didn't know if I could ever forgive either of them. As the days went by, I made a decision. I wasn't going to chase after her or beg her to come back. I realized that in trying to hold on, I'd only be hurting myself more. I needed space, time to heal and regroup. I started focusing on myself, going to the gym, reconnecting with friends, and trying to rebuild some sense of normalcy. But inside, there was always this gnawing pain, this constant reminder that the woman I loved had betrayed me in the worst way possible. One night, I sat alone in my apartment thinking about everything I'd lost. I felt stupid for trusting her so blindly. I felt angry for all the times I ignored my gut feelings, for all the signs I brushed off. But mostly I felt heartbreak, because no matter how much I told myself I'd get through it, the wound was deep. It's funny how one moment you think Everything's perfect, and the next, your entire world collapses. I knew I'd probably spend a long time trying to trust again, trying to love again, but right now, all I could do was sit with the pain and accept that my life was never going to be the same. Looking back, I think the biggest lesson I learned is that you can't force someone to be honest or loyal. No matter how much you love or trust, some people will throw it away, and you'll only find out when it's too late. Whatever happens next, I know I'll never be the same. And honestly, that's okay. I've got to rebuild from the ground up, and maybe someday I'll find a way to move on. But right now, I just want to heal. And that feels impossible when your world has been shattered by the woman you thought was your forever. It's been weeks since I left her apartment, and honestly, I've come to some hard realizations. The pain still lingers, but I'm starting to see things a little clearer. I've realized I was so blinded by love and trust that I ignored every warning sign, every little instinct that told me something was wrong. I was so caught up in the idea of us, our future, our wedding, that I didn't see the cracks forming. Or maybe I saw them and I just didn't want to face the truth. Now I'm left to pick up the pieces. I've learned that some betrayals cut so deep they leave scars that never fully go away. But I've also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I've stopped blaming myself for trusting her because I genuinely believed in what we had. I trusted her with everything, my future, my heart, and she threw it all away for some meaningless fling. That realization hurts more than anything else. Looking back, I wish I could tell my younger self to pay attention to the signs. Trust your gut. When something feels off, don't dismiss it. Because once it's gone, once the betrayal hits, it's like trying to put a shattered mirror back together. It's never quite the same. Still, I'm proud that I didn't crumble completely. I've been angry, sad, and betrayed, but I've also been trying to move forward slowly, painfully, but surely. I don't regret loving her. I don't regret opening my heart, but I do regret ignoring my instincts, ignoring the red flags. Because if I'd listened to that little voice inside, maybe I wouldn't have been blindsided. Maybe I wouldn't have felt like I was drowning in this nightmare. Now I'm focusing on myself. I'm rebuilding my confidence, my sense of trust, though it's a long road ahead. I know I'll love again someday, but right now, I just want to heal. I want to find peace with what's happened and learn how to trust again, not in her, but in myself. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's this: don't settle for betrayal. Don't ignore the signs or dismiss your feelings. Because once someone breaks that trust, it's like a piece of your soul gets chipped away. But you can survive. You can rebuild. And someday you might even come out of it stronger than ever, wiser, more cautious, but also more capable of real love. For now, I'll keep healing. I'll keep moving forward, one day at a time. Because no matter how much I wish I could erase this nightmare, I know it's part of my story now. And I'll use it to grow. Because at the end of the day, that's all I can do. Keep going and hope that someday I'll find the happiness I lost.